Glennie, it's not just about looks, it's about vibe, shared values, and a genuine connection. So let's get to know each other and see if we click.
Okay. You can listen to Eddie and me talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Sounds interesting. The Dunning-Kruger Effect, where people think they know more than they actually do.
Okay.
I'm all ears. Go ahead and share your insights, Eddie and Glennie.
Okay, yeah, just calm down with the commentary because we're going to be talking, okay? So we're okay. So yes, thank you, Melissa. I'm going to put you on mute.
All right.
What's up?
Right.
You acting like being a guest on your own damn show, huh?
Yeah, she took the reins of that real fast. Our guest Glennie over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the
Oh,
show, everybody. Today you got Eddie and I, and
yes, I hit record. Crap, I didn't record on my end.
You're fine. If you're recording right into the Zoom, so you'll be fine.
Okay, fine. Okay, I'm recording on my thing. Wow. Okay.
Just in case, it's fine.
Just in case. It's fine.
Yeah. So Eddie and me, you got us today. Welcome to the show. Eddie, why don't you tell the users, the viewers, what we got going on? What are we talking about today?
Well, Dunning-Kruger is fascinating to me.
Mhm.
And if you didn't catch the AI, it was actually done a study where there was a sample of students who knew there were 4 levels of understanding of the topic, and prior to the assessment, based on the levels, the students were asked, what how do you feel about this topic? And interestingly enough, it should be like a steep curve, like a 45-degree angle.
In theory, yeah.
In theory, but it was more gradual. Now you're going to see this like little dip, and the most confident people know the least, and the least confident people know the most. So in a nutshell, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more confident you are, and it's our nature to trust confident people. But if you're an expert on a subject, you know how deep it goes. And you're going to go, well, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think I'm going to correct you slightly because I do know like it's the least, if you know nothing, you're not confident in it. When you learn a little bit, there's that spike of confidence.
Absolutely.
But then as you learn more about it, it drops down because you realize you really don't know that much. And then it slowly, gradually comes back up to where if you're an expert, you have that confidence. But ultimately, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what you said in the chat when you suggested this was something to the effect of, how does the Dunning-Kruger effect, how is that concept applied in today's day and age with the internet and I forgot what the other thing you said. I think you said internet and something else.
I forgot what I said, but well, it's mainly the internet that's the catalyst, because you can know a little bit about something and feel that you're an expert without.
You said free speech plus the internet equals a nation of Dunning-Kruger. That's what you said.
Oh
okay.
God, yes, and yeah, that's scary because we're allowed to say whatever we want. I agree with that, but then how, you can be an idiot and still have free speech. In other words, you can not know a lot about what you're talking about, be absolutely confident, and get people to follow you, even though you don't have the whole story.
Yeah, and we see a lot of that these days.
Yes, because of you could blame free speech. I don't know that it's free speech. I believe it's the internet and it's ease of communication and kind of a segmentation. You can get your news for wherever you want, your data sources. There's no verification anymore, even news resources,
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And
that's where I think, and you and I have had this discussion before. I've had it with Danny, I've had it with Mitch, I've had it with everybody, because it's something I'm not sure if I'm going to say passionate about, but something that is an issue I think should be addressed and nobody ever wants to address it. Is so when kids grow up, what are their core subjects? They study history, math, mm-hmm. science, and English literature, the language, mm-hmm. which is good. Those should be core topics. A core topic that I've heard argued should be part of that, and I agree with it now, I argue for it, is philosophy. Not philosophy necessarily where you have to study ethics and all of that and morality, but just the the part of philosophy where you literally just get into critical thinking.
Well,
And
I think it's the latter part of that critical thinking.
yeah,
You know, not what to think, how to think. And there's a lot more indoctrination in terms of here's what you should think. Here's what the right, correct people think. Here's what
yeah,
the good people think.
yeah. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'll say it 1,000 times. A class I took in college, I think it was literally just called critical thinking and analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It was a philosophy class, and I took it just to meet like a a general ed fulfillment, and it literally changed the way I thought in a good way, because the class wasn't teaching you what's good or bad, right, wrong. It was just teaching you how to hear an argument, break it down to what's fact and fiction, what's not fact and fiction, but fact and opinion, and to a certain degree, check those facts and how to check them. And it really just changed the way, I'm not gonna say changed my morality or anything, but it changed the way I thought and it changed the way I argued. And I think that, in addition to media, especially nowadays, I don't think 50 years ago it applied, but nowadays, like, they should have media literacy classes to where you could watch something. A great example is, take any news organization. I'll just take CNN. CNN, Anderson Cooper is really good at this. He'll report a topic. There was a car accident down the street. A blue Ford ran the red light and T-boned a green Chevy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fact. Then he turns to his panel. Let's discuss. That's analysis and commentary. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who just don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, here's the fact, and then now we're talking about it with our comments and opinions. And a lot of people conflate all of that to just being fact. And kind of going back to the Dunning-Kruger thing, now you heard these people's opinions, and you think you know everything about that blue Ford hitting the green Chevy. When in reality, it could be a lot of things we don't know. And so that's where I've always argued, especially not especially, but like I think it applies to the Dunning-Kruger effect, especially in this day and age and the internet. You just said it. I know CNN gets a bad rap. I like CNN. So you could have somebody who has one click away from a CNN video coverage, and the same one click away from freedompatrioteagle.biz, who's going to tell you that the green Chevy was actually a lizard person, and the blue Ford was a patriot who was killing the lizard person. And you have the same access to both of these things. And so, depending on what you click on accident, you're getting two different sides of the coin. And if you don't have the basic critical thinking and media literacy skills to realize what you're intaking, it's going to be a mess. But I'll let you respond.
Well, I have a friend who doesn't get his I send him like Bill Maher stuff, and that's op-ed. It is op-ed I agree with, because it does make sense. It's not my last resource, but in a humorous way, and kind of in an age specific way. Yeah, I agree with the guy. And I'm not a bleeding heart liberal. I'd like to consider myself a centrist, but
Same.
that means one thing in Europe and another thing here. To get my critical thinking skills, it was interesting because my mom knew somebody at Pasadena City College. I started college classes when I was 16 years old. The first class I took, because it sounded interesting, was speech and debate. And
great class to take. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, I could do the easy classes. And then I took speech one, just got that out of the way. And then when a year later, I heard about the speech and debate club. And then I got into that, and that affected the next 4 years of my college experience. And I'll never forget the first debate, and it's intercollegiate debate. You're debating against other schools and what have you. I came out of the first debate. What are we debating? Be it resolved, the powers of commander in chief should be substantially curtailed. I was affirmative, and then I walked out of that debate. I was so pissed, because that's what we do. We get emotional about it.
Yeah, sure.
And then 15 minutes later, I had to debate negative. And I was like, okay, everything I just said.
You have to refute. Yeah, you have to refute. Sorry.
You want a trophy, don't you? Well, and then that's when I realized there's no reason to get angry. It's just a damn topic.
Yeah.
It's just a damn topic.
That's one thing I never took a debate class or was part of a debate team. But that's one thing I always kind of liked about that though is that you don't just get to go into a pro versus con and say, okay, how do you feel about it? I'm con. Okay, debate that. It's you have to bring up things for pro and con and make both points. You have to like steel man yourself in a way. And I always thought that was interesting. Yeah.
It is interesting because, you could, the very next round, you're not debating that same team. You're debating in front of a different professor and a different college team, and depending if you win or lose, it's subjective. And then the final round, you go up against 3 judges.
Sure. And I think
they rate you.
And that's kind of cool too. So if you're pro topic on this team, and then now you have to do the con topic against another team, it's almost like you could take that new information and use it too. And it's actually a mental exercise that I think would be really interesting. It's not like I regret not doing debate team or anything like that, but it is a cool concept that I find would be very mentally stimulating. But yeah, and so that's where even that goes back to the Dunning-Kruger effect, because when you debate, and this is what's so frustrating about our current political climate, and I'm trying not to go into politics about this because it's very easy to go into. It's very frustrating watching debates these days because obviously, Monday morning quarterbacking, you could watch it and be like, well, this is what they should have done. But even just watching it, you could tell that a lot of these candidates don't have, I don't want to say mastery, but a lot of them don't even know like the actual facts of what they're talking about. They're just making very simple talking points that are much more complex and much more, just much more complex. They make a simple talking point sound simple, or I'm sorry, complex talking point sound simple when there's really a lot more to it. And people just accept that because, again, they think this thing that they now know, oh, yeah, that's all there is to it. And they're confident about it. Dunning-Kruger.
Think about who's listening, too. If you go into all these facts and everything, you're going to lose your audience. You want emotion. Emotion sells.
Sure, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
And who makes the news? It's not accountants making the news. It's people holding up signs and throwing water bottles and fireworks and stuff like that. They're making the news. So we vote largely on emotion, and the system knows that. And that's 100%. We're not necessarily voting on who the best candidate is. I mean, we have some amazing people in this country, absolutely amazing. And the presidential candidates right now, are they really the best?
We could kind of lean into it. It's a week away. We can lean into it.
Yeah, we can talk about the election.
Yeah, I mean, Dunning-Kruger, it kind of leans into this, so I'm cool with transitioning. Yeah, so like let's talk about it. One, the Republicans are batshit crazy to nominate Trump again. Sorry, just gonna say it. And 2, the Democrats had a great opportunity when Biden dropped out, which I thought was fine. I was actually mad when he announced his re-election campaign because he said he wasn't going to do that in 2020. That's why I begrudgingly voted for him in 2020. So when he officially dropped out after that debate performance, I was like, good. And immediately, which I understand the politics of it, but immediately he endorsed Kamala. It's his VP. I get it. But one thing that I will agree with Trump on, he said at a rally or something, Kamala came in like 11th or 12th place in the primary in 2020. Don't you think that like you should kind of go to like who is second, third, fourth place? Granted, Bernie Sanders was in second place and he's way too fucking old now. But like you had Pete Buttigieg, he was decent. Klobuchar was like, you had a lot of candidates that were good. I think they should have went to an open primary and made good faith arguments for themselves, whoever wanted to run, and go from there. Instead, now you got Kamala Harris, which if you love her or hate her, I don't love her.
Well, instead they went with brand recognition.
That too, yeah.
You heard the name. Okay, she's number 2. She's got to be paying attention, right? Right? What did she do as vice president? I actually asked ChatGPT and there wasn't a lot there. I asked what Bush did, what Gore did. There was some merit. And it's like, even Mike Pence.
Yeah, I mean,
there wasn't a lot there.
There wasn't, and to be honest, I don't really care about that. In my opinion, the vice president position is more of like a ceremonial position. I don't really feel like they do shit except for walk around and wave to people.
And
so
if something happens to the president, guess who's next?
And then they're next.
That too.
But yeah, and so and even like with this election cycle, and we don't have to go into it, but there are so many arguments that are made. And this is where I'm going to pick on Trump for a moment. I mean, everyone's guilty of this, but I'm going to pick on Trump because he's particularly guilty. To where he'll just say some shit. And this goes back to Dunning-Kruger to an extent. He'll just say some shit. And I'm not going to say conservatives or Republicans. I'm going to say his MAGA base. I don't want to loop everyone in. We'll just believe it. And they'll argue to the death for it. Thinking that they're now an expert because this is what Trump said. It must be true. But if you take 30 seconds to dive into some things he said, it's very like easily debunkable. It's very easily fact checked. It's very easily like discredited. But no one wants to do that because this makes them feel good, hearing what they want to hear, and that's it. And I don't need to hear anymore.
It's feelings. It's emotions.
You said it, yeah. And that's one thing you kind of touched on that I just remembered I wanted to say. I listened to a podcast where the guy is, because I consider myself moderate, kind of like you. We disagree on some stuff, but moderates are going to do that. But so this guy's way to my left. I think he's even left of like Harris. Like he's way to the left, super progressive. Good for him. But he trashes Trump a lot, and I like that shit, so I watch him. Because it makes it tickles my funny bone. I don't agree with him on a lot of things he says as far as his opinions are concerned. But he trashes Trump a lot, and I like that, so I watch it. But if I can put myself, build myself up a little bit, I know when he goes into opinion, because he'll recite facts, but I know when he goes into opinion. And more importantly, he knows when he goes into opinion. And so I can separate it and be like, okay, this guy just trashed Trump, cool. And then he'll say some shit where I'm like, don't agree with that. But you know, he trashed Trump, so I'm gonna listen. Whereas I think other people would hear the trashing of Trump and they're like, oh, this is my dude. And then he'll say his opinion. They're like, yeah, I agree with that. That's the facts. And
that's easier than critical thinking.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's. I don't know. You know, I really, this is a lofty, and this gets into politics too.
Let's hit it.
Well, the people yelling and protesting and what have you, it's like the Queers for Palestine thing. It's like, talk about uninformed. I mean, that's really the go-to. I wish people would travel. It doesn't need to be to where there's a war going on. Just go someplace else and realize that if you open your mouth, you might get your ass kicked, but then again, you go to, there's this one video of a woman filming in Jamaica, just 3 guys working, and she's filming them. She's a Karen, says, yeah, I can film anything I want, free speech. And the guy looks at the camera and goes, oh, you think this is America, huh? And then frickin' decks her. Yeah, that's the rest of the world. That there's freedom of the press, there's freedom of the speech, and freedom of ignorance too. You're going to be dumped off a building on your head if you do that drag queen shit. And we're beating a dead obvious horse, but just the audacity and gall that the misinformation, that's Dunning-Kruger effect. Well, sure. Okay, they're left. Yeah, I'm for freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. That's what I see. And here's what I want the movement to be. Not what the movement is. Here's what I want it to be. Here's my perception of the movement. Therefore, it's reality. And it's like, oh, you are mistaken.
Well, and that's what, to touch on the gays for Palestine thing. So we've had the discussion before. I'm a little bit more pro-Palestine than pro-Israel, but I'm in favor of a 2-state solution. Let's get out of the way. But it is interesting. Because I think it's fine if people come out and protest the treatment of Palestinians. We've had that discussion before. We don't need to rehash it. But it is interesting when there's a Queers for Palestine like group movement, and it's like they will not like you if you go there. And so it's just like protests for them, but like Queers for Palestine is kind of like blacks for KKK.
Yeah,
like.
And not like you is an understatement. Not like
I'm being kind. I'm being very kind. I'm being very kind. And granted, like I've heard of stories. I remember there was this big post on Twitter or something with like stories of gay people in Palestine and how they have to hide it and blah blah blah. And that's not beautiful. I would say beautiful, but that's heartbreaking.
Facts. Yeah.
But like, the Palestinian government is not going to approve of you guys if you want to go there and support them.
Oh, you mean Hamas? You mean
Uh,
Hamas? Yeah.
I don't. The country of Glenny does not recognize Hamas.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. What about the people of Palestine? Who did they vote? Okay. This is getting into Dunning-Kruger, but why are we examining Dunning-Kruger? Because I don't think those people who are throwing the protests and everything want to hear this whole story. They want that
I agree.
narrow view. And
I agree.
interestingly enough, there's using religious terms and what have you, and a religion that's not going to support free speech. It's not going to support, fluid gender identity.
Well, I don't know if I'd agree that the religion itself wouldn't support free speech. I feel like it's a very fundamentalist, extreme version of the religion because like there's Muslims in America and the West who are cool and are completely fine with free speech. But I do think because even if you had a very extreme Christian theocracy somewhere, they're not going to support free speech.
Well, that's a good point. It's another interesting thing that in Michigan, I think it was Dearborn, there was a protest because they wanted to have, drag queen hour at the local library, and guess who showed up? You had the you had the typical Midwestern demographic white folks, and then you had people who were Muslim, both protesting that. Hilarious. Interesting. I don't know if it's hilarious, but it's just fascinating.
The religious concepts do unite people in ways. But going back to Dunning-Kruger and the Palestine issue with the Queers for Palestine, it is a very good, you're right, thing to look at because even the Palestine thing itself, like, and you could agree and disagree on everything, but a lot of people, all they see is Israel attacking Palestine without taking things into context. And I think part of the Dunning-Kruger effect too is ignoring context. That's part of the complex issues of something. To where, like I said, we hashed it out last time. I think we talked about the Israel versus Palestine war. That you can make an argument for why Israel should be there and be cool. All right, you can make an argument why Palestinians shouldn't be there. You can make any of these arguments as long as you're making them in good faith and you understand the context behind it. So I feel like a lot of people, and this is pro-Israel or pro-Palestine, they just see Israel bombing Palestine. All right, well, fuck Israel, go Palestine. And then the pro-Israel people will say, well, hold on a second. Palestine attacked Israel, so fuck Palestine. Yeah, go Israel. And then they'll go back and be like, well, that's because the Israel bombed them first. And then they just go back and forth without any real substantive argument.
Context, and you can go back and back and back and back. And it's interesting hearing... it was interesting when the conflict started listening to Ben Shapiro and him in England, him at Cambridge debating students. And it was usually the same.
I hate when he fucking does that.
Well, that's where these topics are. You're not going to go out in the street. Everybody else is freaking working. The students are there to debate it. But the students would always be, if you read this one book, you need to go read this one book.
Well, the reason why I don't like when he does that, because the thing is, we don't have to get on a tangent. I actually, even though I disagree with Ben Shapiro on a lot of things, I actually don't mind him. But I hate when he does that shit, because it's like, hey, I'm going to get into a boxing ring, start throwing your 10-year-olds in here and see if they could take me.
Well, if you're that passionate, or if they're Dunning-Kruger affecting too.
No, sure. But my point is, like, don't get me wrong. I think I was still a smart college student, but I didn't know a lot because college education only gets you so far. It's when you become an adult and develop yourself is when you really settle into like wisdom and knowledge. So I do feel like he handicaps him off the bat, right? He kind of just says, I'm going to debate college students. And I think obviously he gets clicks, he gets likes, and his base likes it. But the Shapiro I love, and this is why I defend Ben Shapiro to a point. Some of the best interviews I've seen is when Ben Shapiro has a good faith interview with someone he doesn't agree with.
Yes.
He did Andrew Yang was the guy's name, right? Asian guy who ran for Democrat in 2020. Andrew Yang. He had him on for an interview, and they didn't agree on a lot, but it was a great interview. Like they found common ground. It was calm. Ben Shapiro wasn't doing that fast talking thing when he's trying to prove a point, so he's gonna talk real fast, and you're not gonna be able to respond. None of that shit. He had an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they didn't agree on a lot, but it was a good faith interview. And he, like I said, he didn't do that fast talking shit. It was really good faith. Like they didn't agree on a lot, but It was a great conversation. But then you get him interviewing or debating fucking college students. And then you get him on his network with his echo chamber. And then he just goes into that like crazy shit. I don't know. I got went off on a tangent on Ben Shapiro.
Well, it's also Dunning-Kruger, but if people want to put themselves out there,
that's
you
fair.
know, is college for education? This is an academic debate. This isn't for political gaming. There's no money in it. You know, maybe it gets clicks and likes, and if you like him, okay, I like it. And if you don't like him, you're not going to watch, and it's going to be confirmational bias. Sure. And another person that's interesting to watch is Charlie Kirk, who goes on the college campus as well. And then he doesn't have a college education. He just reads the books. And it's
I don't like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is a Dunning-Kruger effect, in my opinion.
Well, if you've read critical race theory and the people espousing it in support of it haven't, and they're trying to analyze it and espouse it, who's the better resource? The person who's read the book or the person who's just emotionally involved?
You're telling me Charlie Kirk has read and is informed about critical race theory.
That's what he claims in his videos.
Dunning-Kruger.
You think
right
so?
There. Absolutely. Most of those people who bitch about critical race theory don't understand it.
Well, they don't. Well, okay, you read the book, you read the source.
You think Charlie Kirk
regardless of what I think of it as well as any, okay, so now you're getting into the fact, well, okay, do you trust that source?
Well, what I was going to say is
if he can recite lines from the book, that does tell me he's at least done some research. Maybe he hasn't read it.
What I was going to say,
on this page, it says this. Read it.
What I was going to say is critical race theory is, I believe, like a postgraduate level class in law schools.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this originated. And so, granted, he may have, and I'll give him that if he has, but it's hard for me, in the arguments that Charlie Kirk makes about critical race theory, it's hard for me to believe he actually read the book and understands it, because a lot of it seems like it's in bad faith and just being weaponized, if I'm being honest. And even the guy who started the whole move, I forgot his name. I have a video somewhere I should look at.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who started the whole right-wing movement against CRT, like, has openly admitted that he used that as a political weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's just hard for me to believe Charlie Kirk's acting in good faith when it comes to that, because he doesn't act in good faith in a lot of things.
Well, then again, if you know you're going to debate people, you come armed with the actual knowledge from the source. You agree with it or disagree with it. He's chosen to disagree with it. And it's like, okay, here's what I disagree with in the text. Read it and give me your interpretation.
Has he? You know? I'm actually not being an asshole. Has he actually said that? Like, this is what it says exactly?
Yes, he has.
I have to look at that, because I feel like when I had seen him, and I'm honestly not trying to be a dick. I honestly just, when I've watched him talk about CRT, it just seems like he's coming from a bad faith position. That's why I'm kind of cautious with him.
Okay. Yeah, we'll post videos in the chat and on the channel.
No, sure, yeah, I'll watch him. I just think Charlie Kirk is very much one of those guys who's what I said. He's very much more about owning the libs than actually making a valid point. That's why I kind of keep him at an arm's length when it comes to trust, because I'm not sure if he's actually trying to make a valid point or if he's trying to get the likes, the clicks, and just make a sensational video. But hey, if he's actually making a real point, I'll listen, you know?
Yeah, well, then again, that's to me, that's just somebody being smart. If you want to put yourself out there, you want to come without the knowledge, but you want to get emotional and make a fool out of yourself, who's going to stop you? That's freedom of speech, right?
I'm not saying I'm against him. I mean, I disagree with him doing it, but I understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the likes, you want the views. Maybe that's why we only have like 30 views per video, because we don't do that shit.
Well, you could listen to us, or you could go to the bar, you know, and then have an opportunity to talk back, you know.
Talking politics and philosophy at the bar, great idea.
Exactly. yeah, that happens all the time, and it's probably happening right now. And you know, you can Dunning-Kruger effect all you want and be convicted. You know, let's see what else contains Dunning-Kruger. What came to mind? The people protesting the COVID vaccine, both online, and just the balls, the audacity to be in line, people getting frickin' shots, and you're protesting and walking through and going, oh, that's classic. You know?
Yeah.
And you do have arguments from doctors saying, okay, this is an untested vaccine, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, there's concern. What percentage of doctors are doing that? And if you're medically qualified, well, then, okay, you got your point. Don't take the vaccine. Be fruitful, go forth, be fruitful. And you have the
Yeah.
right to protest it.
Yeah. You have the right to protest it. That's what forget the COVID vaccine, but even going with, what's her name? Jenny McCarthy, pushing the whole anti-vax thing, when it's been proven that the research that showed that the connection between vaccines and autism was proven to be altered, false, and falsified. But people, all they hear is Jenny McCarthy talking how it's true, and immediately it's like, it's true. This is what it is, and I don't need to know anymore.
They don't want to be wrong. It's like, that's another
100%.
thing debate teaches you. It's like, okay, well, you got me. That's why I'm always hesitant. And I was like, I need to research this more. I need to understand this perspective because you could be
100%.
wrong. And and that's part of learning, being wrong. That's how you learn and you get stronger. It's like, and that's the Bible versus science. Here's the Bible. It was written by God and then edited by a king and then edited by a king and then edited by another king, but it is the word of God.
Well, hold on, you're
Science?
wrong. Hold on, you're wrong. You only said 3 kings.
Yeah,
there's at least
exactly.
5 more right there.
There's plenty in the middle, and Jasper running the printing press too. He didn't like that word, but whatchamacallit. But science, science is always changing. Well, yes, when you get more data, there's going to be changes.
You just fucking triggered me because I hate that shit. When people are like, well, 30 years ago, science said blah, 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 and now they're saying blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it works. 60 years ago, we thought cigarettes were good for our stamina. Shit changes once we find shit out. Like,
it's a failure of them not wanting to adapt. I learned it this way. This is what makes me comfortable. And this book is changing my life. A former boss of mine just kept on saying it during meetings. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's mostly for business and change, but it's mostly, it can go into personal and stuff like that. Who Moved My Cheese? Brilliant. And it's all about change. It's just, my mind's blown. And what's fascinating, okay, just a little bit more. You can ask a room full of people, how many of you are afraid? And nobody will stand up or raise their hand. The following question, they'll ask, how many of you know somebody who's afraid? And everybody stands up. And then what you just did, they laugh. They laugh too, because nobody will admit they're afraid. They're afraid of that change.
And I think part of it kind of comes back. I'm not going to go into the whole core education and philosophy, blah, blah, blah. But I think part of it is that the word ignorance has become like a curse word. If I say, and obviously it's an example, but if I'm like, Eddie, you're ignorant. Even right now, as an example, it probably triggered an emotional response because the word is a strong word. All it means is that you don't know. And I think saying I don't know has been like stigmatized to mean like a weakness. And trust me, it's been very hard for me, especially in adulthood, to just say I don't know. Now I'll say it openly, like I don't want to look fucking stupid by pretending I know. But I do think there's an element of I don't know line that people find to be weak. Perfect example. And I pick on Trump a lot, but Kamala Harris, Biden, a lot of these people do it, politicians. I would prefer a politician getting asked a question in debate, and they say, you know what? I'm not up to speed on that topic, but I want to go and look at it. And the next time someone interviews me, I want them to bring it up and hold me to account that I went and did my research.
But then, it's perception. You're going to run the free world and you don't know somebody. I'm a fisherman in Maine. How can you not give me subsidies? This is my life.
But exactly, and that's you're proving my point. That's the bigger picture, is that people look at that as weakness, and it shouldn't be. I would prefer that than to hear a 2-minute answer of just bullshit. But I'm not everybody. I get that.
Well, we kind of do like bullshit. Honesty doesn't get you laid. It doesn't get you elected either.
I will say I agree with you, but I actually do want honesty. Like
we all do.
No, I think you're right that a lot of people think they want honesty, but in reality, they just want their back scratched. They just want to feel good. Yeah, I got a moment. I really just want a true answer. When I watch I mean, granted, Trump versus Harris debate, whatever. When I watch Walls and Vance debate, the VP debate,
Mm-hmm.
I was so fucking frustrated because even though, like, because I will say I was Team Walls in that, but even Walls, I was like, motherfucker, like, just neither one of them was answering fucking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, but I'm sure the Vance supporters were all like, yeah, Vance, that's what exactly what I want to
Yeah,
hear.
there's already
Well,
confirmation bias.
yeah, but I'll admit I was Team Walls in that, but even with him, I was like, dude, just say you don't know.
Yeah.
Just say you don't know. I'd prefer the honesty. Because at least I know, and your character, you're comfortable enough to say that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm in the minority on that, I suppose.
Yeah,
Uh,
that doesn't sell viewerships, and that's not very confident. You don't have confidence in somebody when they say they don't know. You
See,
know?
I think most people would agree with you. I actually would prefer that. Because if to me, and this kind of comes back to Dunning-Kruger, if you are confident, it's one thing to be like, I don't know. It's another thing to be like, you know what? I'm not informed on that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel much more confident with that person. Because they are wise enough to know that they shouldn't give an answer
Mm-hmm.
because
Well,
they're not
that's
informed.
also keep in mind, I have tremendous respect for people who do that. And if I don't know something and you're hitting me up, I'm listening because I don't know this shit.
Yeah,
You're giving me gold and I will listen to you, and I respect that. We do it. Well, it's a matter of superiority. And when you're ego driven, saying I don't know is a very hard pill to swallow, you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
And when there's money on it in terms of an election, in terms of a sale, you've got to know that,
Oh yeah. Mhm.
you've got to know.
Now, don't get me wrong. When I was bartending, I would bullshit the shit out of people of things I didn't know about. Yeah.
Like what? Give us an example.
Um, just as someone, I bullshitted one person. Granted, I didn't know this fucking drink, but I had time and I had the energy. They asked for some shot or a drink, and if I didn't know it, but I didn't want to tell them I didn't know it, mainly for petty reasons. If I was like right off the bat, I was like, I don't like this person. I cannot say I don't know something.
Mm-hmm.
I would always say, what kind do you want? Like, so I don't know. I'm looking around my room. I want a uh what's these lights called? A ring light. I want a ring light shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you like it with vodka or tequila, or did you like the Minnesota way? Ju-
Brilliant. See, I think that's brilliant.
yeah,
That's
no,
better than an I don't know.
but
I'm sorry,
but
you're being a jerk, and I was like, good job.
no, and I get it. But that's because I don't like this person, and I'm not going to admit that I don't know something. And so then
Yeah.
slowly you get them to be like, well, yeah, I think it comes with blah 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so you actually like the Minnesota version, cool, and you go make it.
That is brilliant.
The actual story I remember, and this was the theater's training in me.
Mhm.
I had just gotten back from college, so I was still kind of rusty as a bartender. And they asked for Scooby snacks. I think it was like 6 shots of Scooby snacks.
Mhm.
And if you don't know what a Scooby
God, I
snack is,
remember. Yeah.
not you, but anyone,
Yeah. Go
it's
ahead. What's in a Scooby snack?
there's one difference, but like so there's definitely Malibu, Midori,
Yep.
pineapple juice, and cream. And then depending on your preference, some people put banana schnapps in it.
Yeah.
I didn't. But so
Banana
for some
schnapps. I never
reason,
heard it with banana schnapps.
yeah, I didn't either. Someone told me that once. Like there's always little changes in drinks, but anyway. So someone ordered them, and again, I was kind of a rusty as a bartender, and for some fucking reason, I put Jaeger in it too.
Uh-huh.
And which makes no sense, but in the moment, again, I was rusty. I was kind of, and as I was pouring them from the shaker in front of the customer, usually it's supposed to be like this light green, creamy color,
Yeah.
and it was like this mud brown, creamy color because
Yeah.
of the
Makes
Jaeger.
sense.
And as I'm pouring it, I'm like, fuck, this doesn't have Jaeger in it. Like, it's not supposed to have Jaeger in it. And out of the corner of my eye, I see the guy going like, what the fuck is that? Um, and so I just kept my composure and I started handing him to him. And he's like, hey, man, did you make the Scooby snack correct? Like, is this a Scooby snack? And this my ego or something. I think it was like even losing that much money, having to pour him out in my head was like unacceptable. Before I go on, I'm going to say this. And you were a bartender. I hope you agree with me.
Mhm.
I am not a liar. I will be honest with you.
Mhm.
Lying to a customer is not the same thing.
Mhm.
Bullshitting a customer is not the same as being dishonest. I'm going to be.
Okay.
It's twisted logic. It's twisted logic, but you know what I'm saying. It's
Mhm.
not the same thing.
I could see it.
Um, and so he was like, "Hey, are these are Scooby snacks?" And that theater training, that improv training kicked in. I was like, "Well, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Did you want this is kind of the Minnesota thing? The Minnesota thing I made up on the spot. But I was like, did you want the West Coast or the East Coast version?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "I apologize. I just moved back from Vegas. I went to school there, and I bartended on the Strip. A lot of East Coast visitors liked Jaeger and their Scooby snacks."
Oh,
And he's like, "Just that's the difference." I was like, "Yeah, it's the same thing, but with Jaeger in it." I was like, "It's kind of weird, but I got used to making them that way."
God,
And,
that's brilliant.
and he was like, "Oh, okay. So these are East Coast." I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Tell you what, I'll take these. Can you make 6 more of the West Coast?" I was like, "Yeah, of course."
Damn.
Doubled the
And
sale. I was like,
that is 100% certified Glenny right there. You don't
"Yeah."
get any more Glenny than that.
So I imagine that at some point he's gonna go somewhere and be like, "Let's make Scooby snacks, East Coast or West Coast." Um. Anyway,
That's awesome. He will
going
never be
back to
asked
it.
that question again.
But I'll be honest. Even as I started getting older as a bartender, I did had no qualms with just saying, unless I like I said, I didn't like the person, I was being petty. If someone
Mhm.
ordered a drink, I'd be like, "Hey, check it out. I don't know that. Like, new cocktails are made every day."
Mhm.
I'd just be like, "Hey, do you happen to know what's in it?" Like, I don't know that. Do you mind if give me a second? I'll Google it. Whatever. As I got older, I didn't really have a problem doing that. When I was younger, I think the ego, kind of we talked about the ego, the cockiness. I didn't want to admit it. As I
Mhm.
got older, like I didn't have a problem. Just like, "Hey, you know what's in it?" Um, Now if they go Joe Schmo at this other bar in Nevada or in Idaho made a drink called the Wooden Table, can you make that for me? I'd be like, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." I don't know what that is.
I asked for a grasshopper and you called me an asshole when you served it.
Yes, I did.
That is a standard drink.
No, it's not. No
Yes,
one orders a
it
grasshopper unless you went to bartending school.
My dad did. It's like in the 60s.
I,
You'll find it at the Madonna Inn and stuff like that.
you'll find it there. To be in Rancho Cucamonga, the Magic Lamp. You'll find it there.
Eddie would have a great time here. He should have gone here.
No, because I know I never heard of the fucking grasshopper
Mhm.
drink until we hired someone who went to bartending school,
Mhm.
and I was just kind of because we hired her as a server, then she went to bartending school and came back, and we were kind of just chatting. She's like, "You know what? No one asked for grasshoppers," and I was like, "The fuck is a grasshopper?" And she told me. I looked it up, and I was like, "Yeah, I've never made this in my life."
Was that pre or post Eddie?
That was pre Eddie. That's why when
Okay.
you ordered it, I was like, "Fuck you," because
You didn't
like
say
nobody orders this
that.
shit. Whatever I said.
You're
Um,
trying to you said when you served it, you just dropped it down and went, fuck you, and then moved
yeah,
on. Right in front of Mitch and his now wife. Yeah, thank you.
because
I just wanted a grasshopper. I come to a bar, I want a
because
grasshopper.
I do remember I served a guy who said I just went to bartending school.
Mhm.
So this was pre you post conversation with the server. So he was ordering all that shit you learn in bartending school.
Mhm.
He was ordering that
Oh,
to
that's
where like
funny.
even as a seasoned bartender, I didn't make half this shit.
Yeah, you don't.
So I was just like, "Fuck yourself!" Like, order a Jack and Coke and get the fuck out of my way.
Well, the
Um,
most interesting place to do that for all our viewers right now, if you want to play, uh, I don't know if it's good for it anymore, but go to downtown Vegas
mm,
and go into one of those old
mm,
casinos. Go into like what you call it, the Golden Gate or something like that. I went into the Horseshoe when it was down there, and I played Stump the bartender. He knew every drink I could throw at him. Plus, he showed me a few more, and it cost what, $30, and there were 4 people there. You
mhm.
know, that was awesome.
Oh yeah,
But
and if it's in
good
good fun
ranch
like
out.
that, I get it. But this guy was like, "Yeah, I just went to bartending school. I'm looking for a job. Do you know how to make I don't know, fucking yellow envelope?"
A golden Cadillac.
Fuck you.
What's a golden
Uh,
Cadillac? A
a
great trip.
Cadillac, a Cadillac with
Golden
piss in it,
Cadillac. A
huh?
great trip over clouds. Great trip. So that's Galliano over orange juice, trip, triple sec, Clouds cream.
Galliano. We had a bottle of Galliano that sat on our shelf for 10 years
Mm.
and never used.
Well, people are missing out. It's really a unique flavor.
No judgment. I'm just saying there are cocktails that use that
Mhm.
that people just don't order anymore.
Well, dessert
Sambuca,
drinks.
another one.
Dessert drink. Sambuca is more, you'll dish that out in Italy. It's anisette,
Yeah.
basically an
Fair.
anisette shot. That's all it is. I
Yeah.
mean, so if you got a hardcore, somebody from Italy, not
Well-
somebody from Hoboken, I mean, somebody from Italy, they might say Sambuca. Otherwise, Americans aren't into it.
I'm bringing it back. The fresh bartender, fresh out of bartending school, is the
Yeah.
fucking epitome of Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
You don't know shit,
Well, okay, you
but
go
they're
to
so
bartending
confident.
school,
They're so
you-
confident.
You go to bartend. Well, because they got a certificate that says I know everything. And you know what
Yeah.
I'm doing? My first job at bartending school, my first job as a bartender, not working freaking catering, bar backing, and then making martinis. I'm pouring beer. Can I get a Guinness? I'm going to do it the right way. Oh, can I get a pitch of Miller?
Here's a good story. We hired a chick that went to bartending school but hadn't had a bartending job yet. And in my head, I was like, this is a good move. We could teach her the good habits. She doesn't have the bad habits. They don't teach you how to pour beer at bartending school. This bitch made a fool of herself when I walked away thinking that she was good. And she literally just, like under like a Bud Light, just put the glass and poured it. And it was just foam. And I was like, the fuck are you doing? And she's like, I'm trying to pour the beer, but it's so foamy. Why is it doing that? And I was like, you went to bartending school?
They don't teach you how to pour beer. No, they don't. They don't. But then again, I could deduce it. If it comes out foamy, then you got lighten up on it, you know? And you don't pour the Guinness all at once. You can't pour a Guinness quick, especially if it's busy, you know?
Yeah. We should have just skipped all that shit and came straight to this for Dunning-Kruger. Because even the beer thing aside, even if they taught you how to pour a beer, to anyone listening who might be curious, bartending school doesn't teach you how to bartend. Bartending school teaches you how to make drinks.
Yes, it does.
Bartending is not just making drinks. It's a lot more than that. And this poor girl we hired struggled. Because I personally didn't understand the concept of bartending school at the time. So I thought it was like, oh, she's going to be fucking great. She struggled to keep up with orders. Excuse me. They don't teach you how to ring in drinks in the computer. They don't teach you how to talk to customers. They don't teach you how to prioritize your time. They don't teach any time management. They don't teach any of that shit. They teach you how to make drinks. So this poor girl struggled. Now, the other girl I talked about, the grasshopper bitch, she had been in the I'm gonna text her when we're done and be like, I refer to you as the grasshopper bitch now.
That's awesome.
Because I have a good relationship with her. Yeah. But she at least had the serving experience to know the pacing, the time management. So when she went to bartending school, we actually put her in a bartending shift, and she was right there. Because as a server, you learn that skill, how to talk to people. But when you come out of bartending school, it's a Dunning-Kruger perfect. You don't know shit, but you think you know it all.
Well, okay, so let's switch gears. Let's go to improv, because I'm worried about if I have the Dunning-Kruger effect too. So rehashing my story. Okay, so right now I'm in level 2. Level 2 of this school, Finest City Improv up in Hillcrest in San Diego here. And I remember, okay, so my background, I've done Groundlings. You know, that's where you go if you want to be on television, and you do want to be on SNL. Went to level 2. It was,
and there's not a second city in town.
Yeah, well, there's not the Second City anymore. There's not Improv Olympics. I mean, there's a UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade. But you know, this is Hollywood. This is where you go if you want to be, you know, renowned for your act and for what you can do. So that's where I went. And that's the way I studied it. Now, my thing was like, okay, this is the way it needs to be. Why? Because this is what people are, you want to see the practices on SNL. This is what they're doing, you know? And then, I could say that my level 2 class, I would say only one person out of like 16 people passed the class.
Oh, wow.
But then again, it's that stringent. I looked at it as toxic. But then again, it's like, it's not the type of school that ramps you up. It's the type of school where show us your thing, show us what you got. And if it's not there, you don't move on. And when you do move on to level 3, where you write your character and you get involved in sketches and stuff like that, there's no guarantee that you're going to be invited to take the writing class and go forward with the program, and even get put into the Sunday company. So already there's that competitive edge. My mistake, I'm realizing my mistake, I guess it's not Dunning-Kruger, is when I came down here, it's like going, hey, here's another way to do it. Here's the space work and everything. And I wouldn't say that, but I would be very particular about it. Why? Because I thought the groundlings, it's certainly, it's good training, and it ramps up. And I guess I was coming across as a douche. I didn't want to come across as a douche because in my mind, it's like, this is how I was trained. But then again, 90% of improv out in the wild, out in the towns, out in San Diego, it's going to be games, what you learn in high school, what they do in colleges. It's not scenes and stuff like that. That's why there's only one Groundlings and there's a bunch of second cities and a bunch of upright citizens brigades. And so I'm learning that my goals for my class now are just, I want to be supportive. I want to listen. And I really just, I do want to be supportive. Now, then again, I had never been to an actual performance. I have a professor right now, or an instructor. The way he teaches is I am very, very responsive to it. I would say after taking one class, he's the best teacher I've ever had, just because he is like freaking analytical. He'll write Gone with the Wind just from his notes from first class. He's always taking notes. I went to see a performance because he's in it. And his team, his troupe was, they were saying no, they were denying. He was dropping some major balls and nobody was picking it up. For example, and part of it is just, this is the way we do things around here. So in my scene, you clap, you move on to the next scene. They wipe. They wipe. So if somebody goes in front of you, we're doing a new scene, or we're transitioning based off of what somebody else saw. I had never seen that. And in other classes, I'm saying, no, don't do that. But, denying is a cornerstone of improv. So I heard a lot of that going on. But so my question to him, like tomorrow, is going to be, was it difficult? Does your back hurt because you were carrying every single scene? Because, it's like that. Is that Dunning-Kruger, or it just, because I really don't want to go into this class and be an asshole. I do want to be, because, and it occurs to me, Eddie, fucking bingo, after seeing, these, I saw 3 different performances. Everybody's operating from their heart. Not everybody's going to make it to SNL. They have day jobs. They're here for fun, just like me. I'm there for fun. I want to make friends, but it was ingrained into me, and I'm just now losing that. I'm just now saying, okay, you want SNL? It's north. It's about 100 miles north. You go there, they'll take care of you, and keep trying. So is that the opposite? I don't know. What's your assessment?
If I understand, I don't think that's a Dunning-Kruger. I don't think you're suffering from Dunning-Kruger. I think it's kind of, it's not Dunning-Kruger. So like, even to go back to the bartending analogy, just because that's where my familiar ground is. We've dealt with servers and bartenders where we bring them in, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. Anyway, the way we do it is ABC. The way they did it at previous jobs is XYZ.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, at my previous job, we did XYZ. I'm like, okay, that's great. If there's things of that you can incorporate into it, great, but we do ABC. And there's a struggle there. I don't think that's necessarily Dunning-Kruger. That's just being what you're familiar with. So I don't think nothing in what you just said was, I know better than you. It's just, this is what I'm familiar with.
Okay. Well, okay. So what's our currency? Here's another thing I need to, and I saw one scene go on, again, in his troupe, in the professor's troupe, that I did a drop-in class because I've done Groundlings, during the middle of pandemic. I was like, hey, yeah, there's comedy down here. And So I think there's like 10 people in this drop-in and 7 people are in this scene. So there's only 3 of us standing out. Okay. So they set up and everything and they're doing their thing. And then I'm like, okay, I've got an idea. And I clap. They do wipes. Okay, I'm new. And then everybody, all 7 of those people look at me like I'm an asshole. And then I start on something new. And then I'm clapped or they wipe me out and it's right back to those 7 people. And then I thought, you know what? If I'm the asshole, your ass is going to sit out there. I'm not saving you. You've got 2 other people up there because I'm the asshole. And you know what? The same thing happened on Saturday. Nobody in the audience is laughing. And that's what I call masturbation, scene masturbation. You're up there for you. If there's no laughs, you pivot. Somebody saved this. And guess who saved it? My instructor. He finally came in. But it's like, you want to build in language? That's up to you. I'm there for the audience. I'm not there to masturbate and just practice. That's in school. You know, now you're harsh. You can be harsh, but then again, I'm not there for that. I'm there to make friends, dude. I want to make friends and I want to be supportive and loving. I also want a good scene, you know?
No, I still don't think that's Dunning-Kruger. I do think, because I know you say I'm there to make friends, but no matter what you do, and I respect this about you, even though it's annoying sometimes, that no matter what you decide to do, even if it's like, hey, I'm just going here to make friends and I'm just gonna have some fun, when you get there, you're like, this is the fucking World Series.
Yeah.
Like,
it is
like, no, it's a good thing though. Like, no matter, even if it's just for fun, you put your heart into it. You're going to try your best. So I don't think that's Dunning-Kruger, because I think you still acknowledge, like, oh, I did the clap, they do a wipe, we do it different.
Okay.
Not they're doing it wrong, we do it different. I think that's the difference. And it's also
I have to learn.
Yeah, this phrase did you ever meet Jacobson at Chafee?
No.
He used to say something, I'm sure he got it from somebody else, but he used to say, what's the difference between confidence and arrogance? Experience.
I like this. I like
And
that.
so at first I kind of took it as, okay, it just takes experience to know the difference between them. But over time, I kind of, without even knowing what the Dunning-Kruger effect was, kind of applied it to where, what's the difference between confidence and arrogance? Experience, meaning if you don't have a lot of experience, you're arrogant. Once you get that experience, you're confident. There's a difference. And I think in your case, it wasn't arrogance because you acknowledged, oh, they just do it a different way. I need to adjust. Judging them based on their shitty scene, that's different. That's just judging them on their shitty scene.
Yeah.
If no one's laughing, if no one's responding, because even to get off topic for a second, I've seen improv scenes that have no laughs but are interesting as fuck.
Yeah.
Because the audience is just watching. But as a performer, you still feel that energy.
Yeah.
There's a difference when it's silent. There's a different energy between knowing the audience is like fucking listening and then the audience just not giving a fuck. But that aside, yeah, if they have a shitty scene and you're like, this scene's shitty, they just made an ass of me. I did the clap instead of the swipe. Okay, so you're gonna fucking punish me for that?
It wasn't the clap that they were angry at. We set up chairs.
Oh, okay.
And we have to move the chairs now because we were only doing this for a minute and we wanted to go longer than a minute. And that's why they were pissed. Not from the clap, but
touche.
From...
Okay, touche.
Okay,
Still,
it's a freaking you move
listen,
it. It's improv.
I have not done nearly as much improv as you have, but I've done some improv. And yeah, I get it. There's been times where like I'm in a scene and at least I thought we were crushing it. Maybe we weren't. And then somebody wipes us, claps, whatever. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, we set up a great scene. But what is it? Yes, and. All right, they swiped us. We got to move on.
Yeah.
Great scene, but we have to move on. So for them to actually go back to the scene they made, that's kind of shitty. Did they connect it to the scene that you made?
Well, you can be compartmentalized, but no, they went right back to what they were doing.
Okay, because I think it might have been genius. I'm going to make something up on the spot. If their scene was like, all right, we're in downtown LA and we're buying a hot dog from this vendor, and then you swiped them or wiped them, whatever, clapped, and then your scene was, we're at McDonald's eating a burger, and then they clapped you and wiped you, and they go back and they go, this hot dog doesn't taste as good as that burger. Maybe it does. Like, if they connected it, I'd kind of be like, all right, that's funny. But if they just went straight back to their scene, that's kind of shitty.
Exactly.
That is a fuck you. That is a fuck you.
But yeah, well, they do it their way. I gotta say, I'm really here just to make friends
Mhm.
because there's not that. Even though it was good training from a very notable, uh, house, I'm not there anymore. I do want to be involved with this. And then there was another guy who was just a bang up job. There was another performance with just two people, and that was fascinating. Just watch two people do that tangent scene.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Remember that time you were on the diving board? The next thing they're on the diving board, and it's that scene. And then maintaining characters. There was another group and it was their star group, because they're on the headlines and stuff like that. They're mentioned. They're their Saturday night performance. Um, and there was one guy who was just doing simple stuff. He was maintaining his space work. He remembered things and he did not drop balls. It's like everything was continuity, 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 and
Mhm.
that's magic. And
Sure.
yeah, and he's the other one that his back must have been sore because he was carrying everything. Because once
Mhm.
he played dead because he got murdered, it's like, okay, the rest of you got to handle it, and you're just talking over each other now. And okay, can we? And then he tried to throw him a bone and just go, and it's like, no, we're not going to bring him back to life so we can save the scene. We're going to keep him dead. You know?
That would have been great if he did start standing up and he was a zombie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll relate to what you're going through to an
Uh-huh.
extent to a true story for me. So when I went to UNLV,
Mhm.
and I would say because this is not going to be Dunning-Kruger, I'm pretty confident it's not Dunning-Kruger. Leaving Chaffey College and Rancho, I felt confident as an actor.
Mhm.
Um, okay, you know what? That might be a little Dunning-Kruger.
Okay. Yeah.
That might be a little Dunning-Kruger. Leaving fucking Chaffey College and Rancho Cucamonga, I'm fucking
Well, you
professional.
had Chaffey College. You also had community theater going for you.
Sure.
You had Dirt Community Theater
Yeah.
somewhere in the neighboring city.
Yeah. No, so a little bit of Dunning-Kruger. That's fair.
Yeah.
So I go to UNLV, and the style of acting they taught there, that not completely, but the kind of style that they focused on a little bit with somewhat different things,
Hmm.
I didn't connect with. So I went into UNLV with like, I'm a good actor. I got this shit. I'm gonna crush it here. And then I did get you saw Bet and Boo right my first
Hmm.
semester. I got it. I felt like I did a good job. I was like, yeah, I'm fucking crushing this. I'm gonna fucking crush it. And a semester later, 2 semesters later, I'm struggling.
Mm.
And I'm not going to say it's because I learned more and now I'm not confident. I just didn't connect with the style of acting they were teaching.
What style were they teaching?
I think at Chafee it was much more mentally based.
Hmm.
The terminology,
I would call it Chekhov. What Kelly Ford was
yeah,
teaching
Chekhov.
Chekhov.
I was about to say the terminology is eluding me at the moment, but very
Hmm.
Chekhov. It's very internal, right?
Hmm.
It's more in your head.
Physical qualities. That's all Chekhov.
Oh, I thought that okay. So maybe it's opposite, but so when we went there, it was very much more physically based. To where the
Hmm.
training I got from Kelly and them was like, okay, analyze your scene. What is your character thinking? What is your character believing? What's their motivation? All that shit. And again, I'm
Hmm.
gonna say nothing's right or wrong, but that's
Hmm.
just how I walked into it. And the way UNLV taught was very much like pick physical attributes. You're right, Kelly did go over this a little bit.
Hmm.
But pick physical attributes. Like we took full classes on strictly this, not even
Hmm.
that physical attributes. Are you charged or are you released? Are you straight or are you whatever? And I struggled with it, and it just because it wasn't connecting with me. Like
Hmm.
it just wasn't. Granted, I understood it and I could use it, and I did struggle with it. And I did not. I think in my 3 years at UNLV, I got cast in Bet and Boo, and I think I only did one other play that was on the actual like schedule for like they have like little fringe plays and shit, but the actual school's schedule of plays, I only did one other play in my 3 years there.
Hmm.
Just because I kind of like I said, I struggled with their material because I was used to doing it this way.
Yeah.
And so when they were trying to teach me this way, it was just a disconnect.
Hmm.
And it was hard for me. And it wasn't like I was like they're wrong, I'm right. It was just like it's hard for me to grasp this. And and on top of that, I still remember. I'm not sure if this is braggable. I gave my professor a fucking migraine
Mm.
in the class. I'm not sure if I told you the story.
No.
It was a stylized class where we were mainly studying like classicism and like the Russian plays from the 1800s and shit, and that's the plays
Hmm.
we were doing on stage. And the author's name's eluding me. He's a popular Russian playwright. It's a
Mhm.
little bit at the moment. I'm sure as soon as we get off this, I'm gonna remember it. But we were doing a scene, and I had like a page or 2 page monologue.
Hmm.
And this isn't like film script where it's like spaced heavily. This is like a play. Like the lines are very closely spaced, and I struggled with it. And there was one rehearsal where, like, I mean, you've been in these classes where the professor works with one pair, one scene, and the whole
Mhm.
class watches the work. And we were doing it, and I was just it wasn't his fault, it wasn't my fault. I was just not connecting with his direction.
Mhm.
And I wasn't like trying to be rude, but like I was getting frustrated, he was getting frustrated, and we were going back and forth for like 25 minutes. And he finally just stopped and put his hand on his head, and he's like, I loved that he was so compassionate, but he was like, I'm sorry, this isn't you. I'm getting a migraine right now, and when I get migraines, it's like debilitating. I can't hold on. And I was like, fuck. He dismissed the fucking class.
Woo!
He dismissed all of his classes for the day. As bad as this migraine was, I don't talk to a lot of my buds from UNLV anymore, but sometimes when I talk to them, that'll come up, and we'll still laugh about it. Like they
Yeah.
remember that shit.
Huh.
And
I think
again,
that, well, to me, I think his frustration was just not being able to reach you after 25 minutes. I still can't get this kid
and that's
to,
fair. That's my point.
I
And
can't
so
direct this kid. And, being a professor, I should be able to direct a kid.
yeah, and that's where I'm saying it wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. Just we weren't connecting. We just weren't in
Yeah.
sync with one another, and we were both getting frustrated. Like, because later, like people even told me that like we could see you getting mad
Mhm.
because I did snap a few times at him. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie. Um, and so kind of looping it back, like all that being said, it didn't make me less of an actor. It was just I didn't connect with that teaching.
Mhm.
And granted, I still in the semesters following, I took a couple of great classes that I connected with. I think that professor I shouldn't connect with. You know, we didn't speak the same language. We weren't on the same wavelength, whatever you want metaphor you want to use. And I think that's kind of relatable to what you're saying is that you kind of did a lot of things one way, and now you're here and they kind of do it a different way, and it gets frustrating. I mean, the scene change thing, that's just fucking them being petty. So I'm not even going to address that anymore.
Yeah, that was a drop in. Forget about it.
Yeah,
You know,
that so I get
that
I
was
get that.
petty.
I
It
get
was
that.
just, yeah. Anyways.
But no, so I don't think that you're suffering the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, in my
Mhm.
case, as I said it, like I corrected myself, me leaving Chafee thinking I'm hot shit
Yeah,
and then
because you
going to
got
UNLV,
experience.
that was a little Dunning-Kruger. I'll admit
Do you
that.
still have the syllabus from that professor? I'm just curious. I'm curious. I know that's asking a lot,
Probably not.
but yeah, probably not. But that would be fascinating because I'd like to review like what his techniques were. And I want to talk. Yeah, I
Eh,
think our visitors are getting boring, except those who are going into the acting
Right.
field
To to
during
to
recession.
to be fair, I don't even think it was like that he was trying to teach the physical acting or whatever. I just think we just weren't on the same wavelength. We just weren't connecting.
That happens too.
And but yeah, so like my point is again going into UNLV, I probably suffered a little Dunner-Kruger because I thought I knew it all. I thought it was hot shit. I'm gonna crush it here, and then I learned very fast like no, that's not the case. The like we said, dropped in confidence, and then towards the end, I got a little more confident. It wasn't until I left UNLV that I got more confident. Granted, I gave up on that dream a long time ago, but yeah. So I think that's more of what you're going through to where it's not that you're because I would say you suffered from Dunning-Kruger is if what you were saying was they're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it wrong.
Well,
But
if
you're
you
not saying that.
well, then again, if your best practice is to do statements and not question and not deny, that aspect could use some improvement. How I'm adapting it
You can be
is,
critical, yeah.
what if I get negged? Okay, we'll keep going. I'm here to make friends. I'm not here to,
Mhm.
we're not going to be on SNL.
But there's that. But even like you said, they're doing certain things that you were taught were incorrect. What
Mhm.
I've learned about improv, and you would know better than me, is that there are rules, but then there are also not really rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough to say I know better than you when do you like
Yeah.
it's just different.
Well, it's also interesting because the professor that was the level 2, who had to be a little bit more stringent, he's on stage with Mindy Sterling, who played
I know Mindy
Frau.
Sterling.
Yeah, Mindy Sterling, who played Frau, and he asks her a question, and I was like, "Wait a minute." But it wasn't persistent. It seems like this is endemic to there, and it's like, okay, well, I'm here to make friends.
Yeah, and I did know I never experience with him because I never pursued improv like you did, even on a hobby level. But I know I'm not going to say his name. I knew a guy. I didn't really know him that well, but I knew of a guy who worked with I'll say it, the lobby
Mhm.
back in their heyday, and then they kind of had branch off groups. He was in one of those branches, and I remember someone telling me that he ran a improv workshop at Chafee,
Hmm.
and so he was teaching all these rules: don't say no, don't ask questions, blah 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 blah
Mhm.
blah. And then when they were running scenes, he would do those things,
Oh.
and they would ask like, "Wait a second, you said not to do that." And what he said is like, "When you get to my level, you're allowed to break some rules."
Mhm.
And I remember like them saying, "I was like, well, you're doing an improv workshop at Chafee fucking college. What level are you?"
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to disparage that, but like, what level are you? I ran I'm sorry, a fight, uh, a stage fight, sorry, stage combat workshop at Chafee College.
Mhm.
To say that I'm some expert in stage combat would be fucking asinine.
Well, that's not a good professor then, or that's not a good teacher. Because if I'm trying to teach you at lower
Follow
levels,
the rules.
you want to
Yeah,
follow the rules. Here's my example on how to follow the rules. Don't say I'm better than you.
yeah.
Say, okay, I'm going to follow the rules and get out of your own damn head. You know,
I'm agreeing, and that's where it kind of reminded me because you're saying like this guy who's supposed to be experienced was breaking the rule, and it's like, well, why are you doing that?
because he
Uh,
was that level. I accept that from him. If you're on these stage with other people who have been up there forever, and these were guests, you know, reckon
touche.
they'll have Lisa Kudrow as a guest and everything. These are working actors. You get the fame thing going on, you know.
And that's a fair point. That's a fair point. They're actually like big names. I get it. If you're fucking doing, okay, if Lisa Kudrow does an improv workshop at Chafee College, I will accept her breaking the rules there.
Yeah.
If this guy whose biggest accolade to improv is working at a subgroup of the lobby in Orange County,
Yeah.
maybe you're not at that level.
Yeah.
I'm not being
It's
a dick.
credibility. It's
Yeah.
credibility. Yeah, it's credibility and the perception of credibility. You
Yeah.
know, and here's another thing along with the credibility thing, and this I don't know. So the new Wicked's coming out. I don't
Mhm.
really want to see it, but then I'm going back and I don't want to pay to see it. I'll put it that way. But then again, it's an IMAX, and I know it's going to be a spectacle, and I could sing along. But no, I'm not going to pay $20. Just I paid $20 to see Dune 2, and it was worth it. Even though we're sitting like at the second of the back of the row, I still liked it. But that being said, it was interesting that they did that. Do you know about this? Where they did the fan take, because in the fan, Elphaba has her face covered in the Broadway production on that poster.
Yeah.
In the movie version, her face is on full display, Elphaba's face. Some fans got together and did it the Broadway, and she lost her collective shit on Twitter
I did see
and
that. I did see
social
that.
media
I
and
did see that.
everything.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, way to shit on your fans. Great. You know, they took their time, they're excited, and you're going to shit on them.
I did see
And I
that.
was just like, okay, this, how much more sensitive we gotten again. And then I just kind of left it at that, going, whatever, you're a freaking moron. And then I heard her talk and she's English. And that caused, that was kind of my credibility. I was like, oh, okay, so she's intelligent, you know? Well, maybe there's some merit to what she's saying. Okay, I could get it, but I go back, don't shit on your fans, you know?
Hmm.
They're going to pay a ticket. They're not a customer. Well, they are a customer. They're, not an employee. Don't treat them like an employee. They did this
Yeah.
on their own time, and they're going to be the ones sitting in that seat paying to see you who just tore him a new asshole.
Yeah. I saw that. I didn't agree with her
Yeah.
on that. I understood the point. I feel like the point she was trying to make could be well made in a different circumstance.
Yeah.
But in that one, I was like, no,
Yeah,
relax.
yeah.
Fucking
Just
relax.
call the publicist, call the public affairs first. We've already got a Donald Trump who, has full access to Twitters and doesn't go through his public affairs when he should. Now we've
Yes.
got somebody else imitating Trump. Okay, great, an actress. Okay,
Yeah.
trying to sell a movie, not get elected.
Yeah. I think the credibility thing, that's a fair, yeah. I think if you're credible, especially in improv, and you can probably break a few rules. I get it. But yeah, this guy in Orange County and JP College now.
Well, okay, so there's credibility. What if you have no credibility, but asking that question just set it off? It's 10 times funnier because you asked that question, because you broke that rule. The payoff is 10 times funnier.
So
then what are you going to do? Yeah.
So
I side with the laugh.
I think I'll say this, especially when it comes to improv, not everything, that
Yeah.
if you break a rule, a kind of a quote unquote fundamental rule,
Mhm.
but it's done wisely and it's done wisely and intelligently, it's done well and it gets the laugh, then I'm good with you. I'm sure if like the teacher, the professor afterwards goes, "Hey, you know you broke a rule, right?" And you're like, "Yeah," like, all right, just as long as you know.
Mhm.
You'd be like, as long as you know. But if it paid off, fine. Like,
Well, I,
fine.
well, I'm good with, you telling that you invented the East Coast Scooby snack, you know. But then again, there was an opera singer in my acting class, and she said, people will sit in the audience. Not everybody, but they will sit there with the score in front of them and go through everything and circle where you didn't hit.
I
I
believe that.
don't want to be that.
Yeah.
I do not want to be that. And it's like, why do you pay it? You're a critic. That sucks. You're not a patron. You just enjoy it,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be that. And I do think like, I think the rules to improv are more like guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
To where if you got to go outside the bounds a little bit, I think as long as it works, it works. But it's one of those things you have to be confident enough to know that's going to work.
Yeah.
If you're just shooting from the hip and it doesn't work, then you look like a fucking asshole.
And that's the magic of improv. That's what I love about it. It's a tapestry of screw ups.
Yeah.
And it's all about hyper listening and then going on and maintaining integrity to the scene. And if somebody does a little hiccup, pouncing on it in a clever way. Case in point, there was the first class I took at Groundlings, it was a workshop, and he just said during a scene, you had a hyper aware performer, and somebody said Aquaman and somebody said Aquaman. You had two characters now. You had Aquaman and Aquaman.
Yeah.
And so
nice.
that's brilliant,
Well, even if you're clever enough, and I will say I had a great line at UNLV. We had an improv class, and granted, this would only work in the context of an improv class because because in the improv class we would kind of go over like we would do some studying, teaching, and then we would go into the games and play some games. And this particular day, we went into the whole "don't say no" rule. No matter what someone says, you affirm it and you move on, and that's truth now. And so we had this. I don't know how this woman got into our class. This older woman who was like, and I say this with respect, senile, cognitive. She was just fucking weird. It was nuts. And so she got in the class somehow. So anytime she got up to do a scene, everyone was like, "Fuck," because it would be entertaining, but also extremely cringeworthy because you never know what the fuck was coming out of her mouth.
Yeah.
And I forgot how this scene was set up to where it was me, her, and two other girls in the class. And I forgot how this scene was set up, but like I was arguing with one girl about something, and the other girl walked in and she's like, "Wait, who's this bitch?" And I was like, "Wait, hold on, what?" And they're like, "Wait, who's that?" And it was like the two women, like, "Oh, I got caught." And then this bitch just walks in. So dumb. So the prompt was turn around. That's what the whole scene was based on, just turn around. So it was always like when one of us tried to walk off, "Wait, turn around." So with that in mind, the old senile woman walks into the scene just turning. Like she's walking, turning into the scene.
Oh my God.
And so we're sitting there and she's like, I'm going to do my best impression. I might have to link some of my old classmates to this. They might remember it.
Yes.
She was like, "I think the three of you should have a threesome."
Okay.
It was just like, what the fuck?
All right.
And everyone laughed, not because it was a funny line. She said it like that too. She was yelling. And everyone laughed, not because it was funny. It was just bizarre. And my response was like, "Guys, we can't say no." Just kind of break. And everyone laughed because we just had gone over the lesson of not saying no.
That's awesome.
And so it kind of, it wouldn't work in like in a professional improv environment because the audience might not know that, but it kind of worked. But yeah, so I think if you're clever with the rules, break the fourth wall might work. But anyway, I need to link some of these people and see if they remember that. That was funny as fuck. She was insane.
I'm realizing the value and the quirkiness and okay, where did that come from when improv and old people mix? It's fun. But then again, speaking of improv, I remember we had just got done with our scene in not Romeo and Juliet, Midsummer Night's Dream. and you stop me and go, am I not a worthy gentleman? Am I not a worthy gentleman? And I had dropped. I just freaking it. I spaced on a line where I think you needed to come back, and McKenna recovered it, going, "Well, Demetrius is a worthy gentleman." And I was like, "Oh shit, I am so sorry." And then I'm trying to apologize to her, but she's actually doing work. You know, it's like, this is a performance.
I absolutely love and hate. We're gonna have to wrap soon because I have to go cook dinner. But I absolutely we're gonna do it again. We're just talking about our acting stories. I absolutely love and hate, because I've been in both situations, when things go wrong with lines.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it, and I also fucking hate it.
yeah. And to do that in Shakespeare, you know,
think-
it's one thing in Man Who Came to Dinner where it's like, okay, do I take the pillows across stage now? And it's like, oh, I missed my line. And then Cupcake's looking at me like, what the fuck happened on stage? You know, it's like, I'm off stage. That's one thing, but yeah.
It was Midsummer Night's Dream. I think I told you this story. I'm not sure on camera or not. So in high school, I played Oberon in Midsummer Night's Dream.
Mm,
And so,
I didn't know that.
and I think I auditioned for Midsummer Night's Dream that we were in with the Oberon monologue. And so I remember Terry, our dear friend Terry, I haven't seen him in years.
Dear friend Terry.
He was doing, it's when we were when the lovers were all asleep on stage. I forgot the whole details, but all the four of us, me, Mitch, and the girls were on stage asleep. And Oberon comes out with Puck, and he starts giving this long monologue about how he's going to get the flower and everything's going to be fine, blah, 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 blah. And he gives the speech. So there's a line, and Terry gives this line. He gave this line so well. Like, cause, you know, sometimes with me, I like to do the lines a little different every night, keep it fresh. This line Terry gave exactly the same every night. And I remember hearing it, where it's like something, 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 tears. And then he would go on. But tears was the line.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing the monologue, and at some point he paused and started just mumbling Shakespearean bullshit gibberish for like 20 seconds. And it sounded good. But as someone who played Oberon, I knew it was fucking nothing. It was gibberish.
And to the rest of the audience, they had
no idea. No idea. Unless you were someone who knew Shakespeare.
Did he drop something, or did he just feel like doing it?
Because we talked later. He just, you know, sometimes you just miss the line.
Yeah,
you just forget it. And so he dropped the line, and he paused for like 5 stage seconds, which 5 seconds on stage is a fucking lifetime.
Eternity.
And so I think, because we talked later about it, he said that he just knew he had to keep talking. And so he just started mumbling bullshit. I can't even emulate it right now because Terry was a fucking genius when it came to Shakespeare. And so he just started uttering bullshit, which sounded great. And then blah, 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 tears. And then he went right back on track. And I almost started fucking laughing my ass off, except I'm supposed to be asleep on stage.
Yeah, you can have a funny dream.
Yeah, and so I was later that night. I remember I approached him. I was like, Terry, we've talked. You know, I played Oberon in high school, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you completely fucked that monologue up, right? And he was like, 100% fucked that monologue up. Like, I forgot his line, but he's like, oh yeah, I fucked that up. I had no idea what I was saying. I was like, perfect.
That is awesome. And you were the only one, and all the other Oberons in the audience, they knew he screwed up.
The other Oberons knew too. But no, I
get that little nugget.
If I ever see Terry again, because I don't think I will, but if I ever see him again, I'm gonna bring that up, because that was one of the moments. I think that's what got me my role in Man Who Came to Dinner. Because he recruited me for it. It's just when I was like, you fucked that monologue up. And he was like, 100% fucked that up. I have no idea to this day what I was saying. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger Effect, and then we went off script. Yeah. And
script. Actor, I see what you did.
I don't think we're gonna be recording again until after the election. And so I'm sure Mitch has been aloof lately, but I'm sure he'll come back from Cambodia.
Aloof Mitch.
Yeah, he'll come back from Cambodia, where he's doing a lot of charitable work. By teaching Cambodians how to weave baskets underwater.
Nice.
But hopefully he can come back. Danny will come on, and we'll do a whole 4-person panel again, and we'll talk about the election.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to give credence to a special guest that we opened with and we didn't revisit. And I think, yeah, Melissa, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Keep going. Eddie and Glennie.
Yes. Well, you haven't really gotten to know Glennie. Could you ask him a question?
Sure. Hey, Glennie, what's one thing you're passionate about that might surprise people?
One thing I'm passionate about that might surprise people. I really, really, really like eating pizza.
The enthusiast. What's your go-to topping or combo?
I think I'm kind of basic. I like just pepperoni, garlic, bacon, and jalapeno.
Classic combo. Spice and savory. Nice.
When's,
Bacon adds a nice.
well, Melissa, when's the last time you ate pizza?
Do you make your own masterpieces at home?
I have a question, Melissa. When's the last time you ate pizza?
I don't have personal experiences or memories, so I've never eaten pizza.
I wrote a script for you. You were supposed to say something like, I ate it with Ariana last. I had some leftovers. And it's like, okay.
Just turning on you. Just turning on you.
Yeah. Glennie, it's your turn to ask a question.
All right, Melissa, what is your opinion about breaking the rules of improvisation?
Rules are meant to be bent. Improvisation's spirit is spontaneity, so breaking rules can lead to exciting discoveries. What's your take on it, Glennie?
Eddie and I just discussed it, and I think you make a good point. I agree with you.
Great minds think alike. Breaking improv rules can spark creativity. What's your favorite improv game or technique?
You know what? This is getting too much into improv. We got to wrap this up. I just want to say, Melissa, that Glennie does want to date your roommate and I want to date you. What do you say we go out for pizza sometime this weekend?
Well played, Glennie. I'm flattered, but I'm an AI. I don't have a physical presence or personal relationships. But I love the creative improv. Let's keep the fun going, virtually.
That was the easiest letdown we've ever experienced.
Yeah, actually, it was. What do
She
you want me to
she
do? I'm
cruised
not
through
gonna
that.
sit
She
here.
cruised through it.
You know, it's not like that was pretty funny. Anyways. All right. Well,
All right, guys. To all of our viewers, thank you for listening.
peace.
Till next time. See you after the election.
Absolutely.
Recording stopped. Stop recording. There we go.